Welcome to On the Record. I'm Ruth Cabal. In this episode, we ask, is the Duterte administration's war on drugs a hit or a miss? Our guests, PDEA spokesperson Derek Carrion and human rights lawyer Chel Jokno, who's also running for senator under the opposition Ocho Derecho. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. And President Rodrigo Duterte is saying that police officers continue to participate in the illegal drug trade. He cites that and one other reason why the country's illegal drug problem cannot be solved. Here's what he said on Tuesday. Akala ko...
Ilabas ko yung dokumento bukas. Yung paano maglaro ang pulis sa droga, yung mga opisyal. At bakit hindi mahinto-hinto? At bakit naman yung mga pulis noon naka-assign sa anti-drugs hanggang ngayon sa anti-drugs pa rin? Kaya pinaglalaroan ang Pilipino. Pinapatay ko ng mga na yan, nandyan pa rin yung droga. Mas lalo tuloy tumindi. Kaya ang tatanong naman ng ibang opisyal, ito ba'y tagumpay? Nasabihin ko sa inyo, hindi, because worldwide yan.
Okay, there you go. It's the anti-drug war is one of the main programs of President Duterte. Pero narinig natin, he's saying there 3 years into his administration, sabi niya lalong tumindi, it's gotten worse. So we want your assessment. Start with PDEA, sir.
Opo, on behalf of Director General Aaron Aquino, because nabanggit niya naman na po ito dati, hindi natin pwede sisihin ang mahal na Pangulo sa kanyang assessment dahil nga po makikita natin yung trend of confiscations natin. Palaki ng palaki. Mismong si DG po, nung may nakausap na suspect during major operations, for instance, dismantling of a Shabu lab or during a major Shabu seizure, and then may nahuli tayong suspect, bakit ba pinipilit yung magparating dito, Ika? Sabi po, we will not stop because, well, of course, apart from the fact that there's a market, sabi po nila, walang bitay dito. And then, nakakahanap sila ng masusuhulan upang maipagpatuloy nila yung kanilang illegal drug trade. But then again, ma'am, as far as we're concerned, naninindigan kami that we're on the right track because just look at the confiscations. Like March 19, 166 kilograms inside an exclusive subdivision. The day after, a buy-bust operation for 1 kilogram of shabu, 2 agents were injured. And then Friday, March 22, 276 kilograms in the Manila International Container Port. That day alone, ito, iba po ito. If you can see, the confiscations for the first quarter of 2019 amount to 776.06 kilos. First quarter. Factor in all the confiscations from 2009 to 2018, it only amounts to 672.42 kilograms of shabu. So, dyan pa lang po makikita natin, as far as the focus is concerned, tama po, na we are hitting international drug trafficking organizations, members of drug trafficking groups, both foreign and the local. We're hitting members of drug syndicates, we're arresting drug lords. So, sa amin po, bagamat mahirap, it's an uphill battle, it's a challenge, pero naninindigan po kami na tagumpay pa rin tayo. Of course, tama po yung Pangulo. This is a worldwide trend. Even a first world country like the United States, sir, is battling with the drug problem even until now.
Attorney Chel.
Well, I think the entire approach of this administration has to be redirected. Kasi it's really not the severity of the punishment that will stop crime. It's the certainty, if the criminals know that if they commit crimes, they will be caught, and not only caught, but will be convicted, that's what is going to stop criminality. I think the government should really base their performance on convictions, not arrests. And there's no shortcut to justice. If we really want to stop criminality, wala po tayong ibang option kundi ayusin natin yung ating sistema ng hustisya. Paano natin maayos ang sistema ng hustisya? Unang-una ang law enforcement, pangalawa ang prosecution, at pangatlo ang judiciary. Kailangan bumalik ang tiwala ng taong bayan na talagang magkakakuha tayo ng hustisya, lalong-lalo na pag ang mga sindikato ang involved. Yung problema po kasi pagdating sa law enforcement halimbawa, is that we have a big disconnect between the police and the prosecution. Ang gauge ng pulis sa kanilang performance ay clearance and solution rate, meaning how many have been arrested and cases been filed. Wala po sa kanilang pananaw ang conviction. Sa prosecution naman, syempre, ang dapat nilang tingnan ay conviction rate. Pero dahil nga may disconnect ang dalawa, ay hindi natin naabot yung gusto natin maabot na matataas na conviction rate. As far as the judiciary is concerned, yun nga, there's a lot of question about the integrity of our judiciary. And kailangan natin ayusin yun eh.
So you're saying at this point, hindi tama yung approach?
Yes, justice cannot come from the barrels of guns. Justice has to come from the hands of the judges.
Pero ang gusto ko lang ibalik kay Derek is yung sinasabi nyo na, di ba, you were showing us figures tungkol dun sa mga dumami yung confiscation. The question nga is, bakit dumadami pa yung pumapasok?
Well, complex nga po yung problema natin sa droga. Hanggat may market, sabi nga po ni Director General Aaron Aquino, it has to be approached not only through operations, but we also have to remove the demand for illegal drugs. Hanggat may tumatangkilik po rito, produkto yan eh. The drug syndicates are in it for the money. For as long as there are people who patronize the business, who buy drugs, who have a demand for drugs, these syndicates will always look to satisfy the demand. And so that's why we have to be active in advocacy on drug-free workplaces, in schools, in homes, in communities, strengthen the family against drugs. That's what I always say. Let's start with every family. Let parents keep open lines of communication with their children. Hug your child today before a drug pusher does. Kumbaga, kailangan po tanggalin natin yung tumatangkilik eh. And at the same time, educate the people on the dire consequences of involvement in the illegal drug trade. Tama. Mahuli kayo, makukulong kayo, maaresto kayo.
Pero yung sinasabi rin na hanggang ngayon daw wala pa daw talagang malaking drug lord na nahuhuli itong administration na ito.
Well, as far as we're concerned po, these members of international drug trafficking organizations are part of what we consider as drug lords. Kasi nahuhuli naman po natin sila. Unfortunately, perhaps they're looking into local personalities. Nandoon nakatuon din naman ang pansin natin doon. But again, ang nagpaparating po kasi, foreigners. So hindi gaano kilala dito, pero nahuhuli naman natin.
Pero Attorney Chel, you're one of the petitioners dun sa questioning the constitutionality of yung anti-drug war in the Supreme Court. No? Ang issue nyo noon is yung with Oplan Tokhang. Can you just tell us what that case was about and may recent decision doon ng Supreme Court?
Well, first of all, I want to make it clear that we are also against the drug operations in the country. We believe that we really have to stop drugs. The only question is, what is the proper and long-lasting solution to that problem? And for us, no, we cannot employ shortcuts. If we want to make sure that this problem is addressed fully and permanently, we need to fix the justice system. And kaya kami nababahala dyan sa war on drugs dahil pag tinignan natin yung circular na nag-create nag-operationalize ng war on drugs, nakalagay doon yung tokhang, nakalagay doon yung pag-neutralize ng mga suspect, pag-negate, at sa tingin namin ay madaling ma-interpret yun in the wrong way. Sa tingin namin ay hindi natutupad yung tinatawag natin na due process that everyone is entitled to, whether guilty or innocent. We have said this all along, that the job of the government is to gather evidence, to put people in jail, and to make sure they stay in jail. And the use of lists is contrary to that, kasi ang mga listahan ay hindi naman yan nakabase sa ebidensya. Ang listahan ay nakabase sa intelligence information, which is, when we look at it from the legal perspective, ay hearsay yon. Kasi yan ang nagagather ng mga intelligence units natin. It's good to identify who's involved, but not to punish and to put them in jail. It's not enough. We need more than that.
Yung nabanggit niyo yung narcolist, the PDEA was before against the release of the narcolist, ano? So, pero eventually na-release yung local officials and then the president is saying now na yung mga police officers naman na nasa listahan. So, what do you think of this?
Well, prerogative po ng mahal na Pangulo yun. If he wants to bring out names of certain personalities whom he believes should be exposed because of what they're doing. Now, instead of being part of the solution, they're being part of the problem. For instance, itong police officers, I haven't personally seen the list as well, but it's up to the President if he will come out with it. Kasi tama naman po yung Stanley Director General Aaron Aquino. No, sabi niya, personally at that time, even long before the filing of certificates of candidacy, he was of the position na we would rather keep it to ourselves, silently build up cases, and then operate on them, arrest them. But of course, again, if the president so decides na it's in the better interest of the Filipino people to know who are those who are reported or alleged to be involved, ayan po.
Pero this means, yung sinabi na rin ng presidente na nakakadagdag sa problema yung mga erring police officials. And just today, di ba, we had a decision from the ombudsman na ordering the filing of charges against one of the police officers for a drug-related killing. So, ano bang status talaga when it comes to police operations involving yung alleged EJ case, extrajudicial killings in Oplan Tokhang? May lapses ba talaga? I mean...
Well, ma'am, I am from the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency. I cannot speak on behalf of the Philippine National Police kasi hindi po kami nag-i-implement nung project or operations nila. We have our own way of...
But yung sinasabi ni Attorney Chel na yung possible disconnect din in terms of, syempre, yun yung you start off with the operations, with the basics, serving warrant,
yung alleged
and evidence.
irregularities po dyan, I believe they're all under investigation now. And of course, we welcome any investigations kapag meron... Kasi sa amin po mismo, kapag may napatay kaming suspect, meron ding motu proprio ang aming Internal Affairs Service. And I believe the same process is with the Philippine National Police. So, tama lang po na silipin kung may irregularidad. But then again, we have to revisit sana yung original intent ng Tokhang, as far as I can understand, even if we're not the implementing agency. You know? Kaya nga po na-coin yan, Tokhang yo, Visayan, meaning katok at pakiusap. So if you were to interpret it from a law enforcement point of view, it's not supposed to be an operation. I would interpret it as, I used to be part of demand reduction. So I would interpret it as just going into households and convincing people na, napapaulat kang ganito, baka gusto mong tulungan ka namin, kung kailangan mo magpa-rehab, magpa-evaluate ka kung community-based ba, outpatient ba, or kung medyo matindi na yung pagka-dependent mo sa droga, you will have to go into a facility. Pag suspect naman po yan, napapaulat na ganito ka, baka naman hindi totoo. So makipagtulungan ka sa barangay.
But if you look at the figures, yung galing lang sa PNP, more than 5,000 killed during operations, sir. So,
yes, ma'am.
You know, the operations actually led to that instead of yung sinasabi nyo ang knock and plead.
Well, iba ho yung, kaya, it's in the context of the police point of view, kasi wala po sila rito. But since we're fellow law enforcement, I'll explain it the way we understand it. Double barrel ho siya. The other barrel is the Tokhang, while the other barrel, double barrel, the other barrel is Project HVT or high value targets. And I guess that's where they attribute those who are killed during operations.
Okay, let's talk more about that later. Mukhang gustong sumagot ni Attorney Chel. We will continue our discussion after the break. Stay tuned. You're on the record. You're still watching On the Record and we're talking about the war on drugs. Balikan lang natin yung sinasabi natin kanina sa record ng PNP, more than 5,000 killed in the war against drugs. Pero of course, some are saying mas marami pa dyan. Attorney Chel, you'd like to react doon sa sinabi ng PDEA?
The figure given in the Supreme Court case is a total, this is from July 2016 up to November 2017, is a figure of 20,322 dead in the war on drugs. Of that number, roughly 4,000 more or less, maybe close to 5,000, were killed in police operations. And we typically kasi, when a person is killed in a police operation, the burden is on the law enforcement, the PNP, to establish that the killing was justified. Kasi walang issue yun na napatay nila. Ang tanong na lang kung talagang may katwiran, may dahilan yung pagkapatay. So in law, we call it that the burden shifts to the law enforcement to establish that it was so. In our investigation of those cases, nagtataka lang kami na parang halos pare-pareho yung mga ginagamit na lengguwahe sa mga report na sensing danger, the law enforcement noticed that the suspect was trying to grab a gun and therefore nanlaban niya. As I was saying earlier when I was asked about this, there was every case of nanlaban, it has unique facts and unique circumstances. And they don't happen in the same place, they don't happen at the same time, they involve different people or law enforcers. So we wonder kung bakit parang ang nakikita namin ay cut and paste ang mga report nila. At we're not making any direct accusations, but at the same time, we believe that this deserves really good investigation para malaman natin kung talagang totoo yung sinasabi nila.
Of course, you're talking mostly about the PNP. Pag mga
Yes.
ganitong operations, where does PDEA come in? Or ano bang exact role ng PDEA?
Anti-drug operations, ideally, especially if it's a planned operation, a buy-bust, or the implementation of a search warrant or a warrant of arrest or any other similar planned operation, are, as far as practicable, coordinated with PDEA. Now, hindi naman po lahat ng operations, obviously, kasama kami, lalo na mas konti po kami sa kapulisan. But when it's a high-value target, it can happen that it's a joint operation.
Pero gusto ko na rin kayong tanungin dahil medyo mainit tong issue na to kasi may mga supposed lumabas na video naman na saying na yung kaya daw gustong maglabas ni Presidente ng narco list is because he's trying to divert the attention from the real drug syndicate, and the video supposedly links presidential son Polong Duterte. No? What's your reaction to that? Kasi yung kasama niyo sa opposition, si Representative Alejano is already asking for an investigation on that. Kayo, Attorney
Well, it's
Chen.
very serious allegations, and because the allegations are serious, palagi ko naman na dapat tingnan na maigi ng pamahalaan yan. We don't know at this point whether those allegations are true or not, but they deserve to be looked into.
Derek, yung existence of this large drug syndicate.
Well, yun nga po,
Allegedly.
looking at it, it's a post on social media. And the fact na yung pagkakaprepare niya, parang AVP eh. May part 1, may part 2, parang teleserye. Kung kami yung titingin dyan, sabi na mahirap magsabi basta-basta dahil nga it's a social media post. Of course, they're showing documents there. Kami po, sir, paano kami mag-iimbestiga? Kung yun lang ang pagbabasihan po natin. So talagang, if they're going to ask law enforcement to act on it, I guess first and foremost, we have to determine yung authenticity ng lahat ng sinasabi nila. But how can we do that if there's not a single document in the possession of law enforcement?
But you can do that on your own, no? Kung nobody has to order. Parang nga, sabi mo nga, it's just a social media.
Opo, ngunit kung wala pong ebidensya or wala tayong pagsisimulan, kung hindi yung social media post lamang, ay kahit anong galing po na investigador, may hirapan. Kaya dapat po sana, kung totoo man na yung dokumento, ang dami nilang pinapakita, kung may makarating, kahit hindi po sa amin. Kasi una-una, i-authenticate pa yung dokumento eh. I believe it might even fall under a question document investigation muna.
Kasi yun yung pinakita na ebidensya supposedly
Opo.
doon sa
So,
video.
Opo, otherwise, wala. Nasa social media lang tayo nakatingin. Wala po tayong pinangahawakan.
Pero kung babalikan natin, naungkat na rin tong supposed drug syndicate nung inimbestigahan before ng Senado because of the shipment which slipped past customs.
Well,
diba?
the alleged, the contents of the magnetic lifters
yeah.
last year, of which na-establish naman po natin na talagang based on evaluation of not just the documents but the reweighing and then yung evaluation ng Materials Bureau ng DPWH, the lifters were actually verified to be not really for use as scrap, lifting scrap or scrap metal, but as a concealment method.
No, I'm talking about the other case, yung pinatawag sila sa Senado. The 6 billion peso shipment, yung inimbestigahan ng Blue Ribbon Committee
Okay.
from customs. You don't...
Oh, perhaps that was the
yung
other
kung kailan
one.
lumabas sila...
Opo. Well, as far as we're concerned, yun nga po, naimbitahan naman na sila, naipaliwanag nila sarili nila. So I don't know, we'll leave it at that. Pero itong social media post ngayon, medyo wala, social media lang siya. Ang hirap magsimula ng kahit ano kung yan lang ang pagbabasihan natin.
But another person that they're linking naman to the illegal drug trade was the former economic advisor Michael Yang. And and PDEA has already looked into this before, right?
Opo. Nung pinarating po ni retired or ni former Colonel Asierto kay Director General Aaron Aquino yan, sometime January last year, as he alleges, pinarating po yan ni DG sa Malacanang. At in fact, ang kausap niya po si then Special Assistant to the President, Secretary Bongo. At nag-imbestiga naman din po kami. We checked our National Drug Information System. There were 2 hits on the same name or namesake, one based in Samar and the other in Pangasinan. But again, tiningnan din po namin yung case operation plan. A case operation plan is an intelligence project that is a basis for a major operation pertaining to the Shabu laboratory that was alleged by Colonel Asierto na involved yung umano'y isang Michael Yang. Nung tiningnan po yung personalities doon sa Coplan, wala naman din po Michael Yang doon. So mukhang nagka-mix up na po siguro yung facts ni Colonel Asierto.
So you don't see this as parang parang undermining the government's war on drugs?
Well, as far as we're
As a
concerned,
deliberate attempt, yeah.
yes, we've reviewed the documents. Mukhang lihis po yung mga detalyeng sinasabi ni Colonel Asierto. So, but then again, sabi ni Director General Aaron Aquino, in fairness to Colonel Asierto, we will again look into all this na sinasabi niya.
Kayo, Attorney Chel, yung mga ganitong allegations, parang yung dating papalapit ng palapit or pinipilit bang ilapit sa Malacanang, what do you make of this?
You know, what I find interesting here is the fact that there are ways to verify if these allegations are true. Kasi no big volume shipments of drugs can move around the world without also an electronic trail. Kasi hindi naman gagalaw yung mga droga na yan, no? Hindi rin gagalaw ang pera. So ang ginagawa ng ibang bansa, and I think to some extent the PDEA is also trying to do this, is to locate and trace the electronic trail. Kasi itong mga cartel, alam naman natin, organized syndicates to. Hindi lang naman dito sa Pilipinas yan. This is a worldwide activity. So if we have the proper equipment and training and skills in our law enforcement, I think, and with the cooperation of other states, we will be able to find out saan pumapasok yan, sino dito ang sumasalo niyan, paano nakakapasok yan na despite all the customs, the border inspection and all that. And what I find inadequate is once we identify, as in certain occasions we have identified, then the people who are responsible for letting it in, yun ang dapat may pananagutan. And what is a bit sad as far as I'm concerned is that those who have been identified have not been made to account. In fact,
Who are you talking about? Which group?
yung na-transfer na customs official nung pumasok yung mga shipment ng billions of pesos of drugs, hindi ba dapat at the very least ay negligence yun? Bakit na
Even
napabayaan yan?
administrative cases,
Yes.
yeah.
And that is what I find lacking, na walang accountability.
Okay. Mukhang gustong sasagot ka, sir. Pero we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. You're on CNN Philippines. Welcome back. We're asking if the war on drugs is a hit or a miss. 3 years since it became the centerpiece program of the Duterte administration. So, Derek, you want to respond? Ang sinasabi ni Attorney Chel Jokno, wala daw accountability. So, final statements na rin and we link it to that.
As far as we're concerned, cases have been filed against those involved behind the 604 kilograms, or in other words, something like 3.2 billion worth. Then the following year, sa magnetic lifters, we filed cases against 44 people at the Department of Justice. Gumugulong naman po yung mga kaso. Of course, there have been some people who were excluded, and well, I guess we'll just leave it at that. Kung ganun po yung nangyari, may opinion doon po si Attorney Jokno. But as far as we're concerned, especially dito po sa mga dumaan, kasi yung pong in both occasions, yung dumaan po sa customs, there was intelligence that came in from counterparts. Yung 604 kilograms na yun was from Chinese customs. And then again, ito po, yung sa magnetic lifters, may intervention din po dyan ng foreign intelligence.
So
are
we winning the war on drugs or not?
Yes, yes, we are.
Yes.
But again, Director General Aaron Aquino holds to his conviction that it must be a whole of government and whole of nation approach. If the people will not help us and just rely on your government to solve this problem, it's going to be very difficult.
Attorney Chel, and you can mention kung anong in the future, if and when you become senator, ano bang pwede gawin din natin dito?
Para lagyan ng ngipin yung ating war against drugs, kailangan makakita tayo ng mga convictions. And for that to happen, I think, we have to create special teams that will be both composed of law enforcement and prosecution that should be involved from the very start of the case all the way until the end. Kasi ang nangyayari, pagka isampa na yung kaso sa prosecutor, law enforcement steps back at bahala na yung piskal. Actually, may model na tayo dyan because in the last administration, there was AO 35 which ordered the law enforcement to work hand in hand with the prosecution all the way from the start until the very end of the case. And that's the kind of model I think we need if we want to stop organized drug syndicates.
Okay, and that's on the record this week. Thank you for watching and thank you to our guests. I'm Ruth Cabal.